I was going to say that I'm so proud to say that it takes me 20 minutes to get ready, but I just met someone who takes 5 minutes. And so I'm not proud of my 20 minutes anymore. Man, and I even blow dry my hair in that 20 minutes. I was really proud of myself. We won't talk about how long it takes my wife to get ready. In fact, sometimes I don't even think you're really getting ready. I think you're just up there avoiding. I don't know why I'm zeroing in on you. I'm sorry. Especially if we're getting dressed up to go somewhere fancy. I mean, it could take a long time. We like to get dressed up. Anybody else like to get dressed up? I'm cracking my wife up today. This is great. I don't really care if the rest of you think I'm funny, but if she thinks I'm funny, it's awesome. We're from Texas, and I think in Texas people dress up more than they dress up in California. So I moved here 4 years ago, and I haven't had very many occasions to wear my suit. Singular. But the other day, I was asked to help with a wedding and speak. I'm sorry, not a wedding, a funeral. I used to say, if you see me in a suit, it usually means someone's getting married or buried. But here, even at weddings and funerals, people don't wear a suit very often. I went to this funeral 2 weeks ago that I was asked to speak at as a pastor, and I show up in my suit, and I look around, and nobody's wearing a suit. And this is mostly elderly people, and they live in a retirement community, so I guess they've stopped trying at some point. Even the pastor of the church, I hope that wasn't offensive, even the pastor of the church where the funeral was held was wearing a Hawaiian t-shirt. And, yeah, and he was about to call me up to do my, talk. I was going to talk about the prodigal son. It was this lady who passed away was her favorite Bible story. And he said, I'm not sure if I'm going to invite you up. I'm so intimidated by your suit. And I thought, I need to wear this suit more often. I don't intimidate people very often. How many of you know, I don't understand how fashion works. Some of you are like, yeah, I know. But the way you dress is determined usually by what you're expecting, right? So if you are going to the beach, you're not going to wear your snow boots, right? Or if you're going to the top of a snowy mountain, you're probably not going to wear your flip-flops, right? So the way you dress is usually determined by what you're expecting. And most of you would never have the courage to wear socks and sandals. But I just want to plug this really quickly. If you have Birkenstocks, socks and sandals will change your life. It is the most comfortable footwear attire. That's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to move away from that. For a second, I want you to think about how you are preparing yourself, not just physically, but spiritually. What would your spiritual outfit look like? Some of you don't think about spiritual things very often, and so you're probably spiritually naked. So today we're going to put some clothes on that spiritually nude body, and we're going to get prepared. What would maybe for you, you need a change of your spiritual wardrobe. Now, this is kind of a confusing thought, but when you think about what's coming in your life, maybe you don't think about it. Maybe it's time to think about that. Most of us kind of live on the cusp of something, don't we? If you're a kid, it's man, if I could just get to high school. Or if you're in high school, if I could just graduate and get out of here. Or if you're living with your parents, man, if I could just be out on my own. Or if I could just get that degree. Or if I could just get that career that I want. Or maybe it's if I could just meet the one, and everything will be better. And then you meet the one, you're like, well, if we could just have a kid. And then once you have that kid, you're like, if we could just get this kid to sleep through the night. Or maybe if we could just get these kids out of diapers, get done with formula. If I could just get this kid to school, everything will be great. And then once they're in school, it's if I could just get this kid graduated and out of my house. And then you get the kid out of your house, and then you got your parents. You're like, well, if I could just get my parents situated in a home, taken care of. Or maybe if you're close to retirement, it's if I could just get to retirement. And once you retire, it's, I guess you're looking forward to death, right? I mean, what else are you looking for? If I could just get a grandkid, maybe, I don't know. But we live kind of on the cusp of things, and I hope that spiritually we're ready. And so, you know what? Also, I can realize that maybe what I just said could cause some anxiety. So if you felt some anxiety when you started thinking about all the things that you're looking forward to or not looking forward to or dreading, go back and watch Mike's message from last Sunday. It was amazing. He talked about anxiety, Jesus' teaching on how not to be full of anxiety. So go back and check that out on our YouTube channel. But today, we're talking about, in our series, heart medicine. Jesus has been kind of prescribing something every week in our series. He's like a doctor. And usually, the heart medicine that Jesus prescribes is action. But today, it's more than action. It is a whole mindset. Your entire attitude needs to shift to follow the heart medicine that Jesus has for us. So Luke chapter 12, we're going to read verses 35 through 48. I'm going to read it a couple times so you'll kind of get to hear it, but I'm going to read the whole thing. So just kind of take it all in. It's going to take a second, and then we'll go back and kind of work through the pieces. Here's what he says. Luke 12, starting in verse 35. Be dressed, ready for service. Keep your lamps burning, like servants waiting for their master to return from a wedding banquet, so that when he comes and knocks, they can immediately open the door for him. It will be good for those servants whose master finds them watching when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will dress himself to serve. Will have them recline at the table, and will come and wait on them. It will be good for those servants whose master finds them ready, even if he comes in the middle of the night or toward daybreak. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Peter asked, Lord, are you telling this parable to us or to everyone? The Lord answered, who then is the faithful and wise manager whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them their food allowance at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all of his possessions. But suppose the servant says to himself, my master is taking a long time in coming. And then he begins to beat the other servants, both men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces, yikes, and assign him a place with the unbelievers. The servants who know the master's will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does not know and does these things, deserving punishment, will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much will be asked. There's a lot in there. I want to go back to the very beginning, what he tells them. He says, be dressed, ready for service. So what is your spiritual outfit? What is your attitude, your mindset that Jesus is prescribing? Is to be ready. You are dressed for service. I don't know how long it took Jesus' disciples to get ready. I don't think any of them had a blow dryer. But I do know when the servants were dressed to serve, here's what they did. They took their tunic and they put on a belt. And they girded up their loins. So their tunic was drawn up. They took the extra fabric, put it in the belt, and it made them more agile, more ready to serve. This is also what you see soldiers do when they're getting ready for battle, because you are more able to move when you're dressed for service, whenever your loins are girded. You can move easier without the clothing getting in the way. And then he tells them this: be dressed ready for service and keep your lamps burning. Does anybody else keep their lights on all night? I have a neighbor. I don't understand it. All night long, their lights are on. And it kind of reminds me of the old Motel 6 commercial where it's like, Motel 6, we'll leave the light on for you. I don't know if maybe my neighbors are expecting someone in the middle of the night. I need to stop focusing on it, actually. But this is what Jesus wants for us. He wants us to keep our lamps burning. The reason Jesus wants him to keep his light, leave the light on for him, is because we have a master who's coming back. And when he returns, he wants to have servants ready to open the door for him, prepare the way for him. And he'll be so grateful when he does that he'll say, hey, you, take the load off, and he'll serve them. He'll serve his servants. So what does this mean for you? For you and me, obviously, we are in this story. Jesus is the master. If you thought you were the master, you're wildly mistaken. But Jesus is the master, and you and I are servants. This is your position in the kingdom of Jesus. If you're taking notes, write this down, because this is maybe the most important thing all morning. Your position in the kingdom is that of a servant. Plain and simple. Your position in the kingdom is that of a servant. And that may kind of sound like a bummer, but Jesus always chose the place of a servant, didn't he? Always. Your job is simple. When you leave this place, you ready? Here's what you do. Serve somebody. Anybody. If you're married, serve your spouse. They'd probably like that, wouldn't they? If you got kids, serve your kids. You're like, wait a second, are my kids supposed to serve me? Yeah, you teach them that too, but you serve them. Serve somebody. That is the whole of the application today. When you leave today, your assignment, your heart medicine is go and lower yourself to the position of servant, because that's what Jesus wants you to be anyways, and serve somebody. He is giving you the role of servant for a reason, because he knows it's good for you. In fact, when you look more like a servant, you look more like Jesus. Jesus said, the secret to greatness is found in serving. He literally said that. He said it in Matthew 20:26. Anyone who wants to be great among you must become your servant. And it may not sound like fun, serving. Who wants to serve, right? Serving looks a lot like work. And some of you are allergic to work. In fact, you work really hard in college to get this degree so that you can have a job where you don't have to do much work, right? We work hard to avoid work, don't we? But your position in the kingdom is a servant. And Jesus says there's a reason, there's a huge reason for your service, and there's actually a reward that comes for your serving. Here's what he says, verse 37, it will be good for those servants whose master finds them watching when he comes. When he comes home and sees you serving, here's what he's going to do. Truly I tell you, he will dress himself to serve, and will have them recline at the table, and will come and wait on them. It will be good for those servants whose master finds them ready, even if he comes in the middle of the night or towards daybreak. Jesus himself is going to gird up his loins and serve those who see him serving him with their lives. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I know he is preparing a party for us in heaven. In fact, they're already partying. Every time somebody's life turns to Jesus, they're throwing a party in heaven. And next he tells us that our service has one end. Here's what it is, verse 39. Understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready. Here's why. Because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Jesus is coming back. He won't stay in heaven forever. One day, Revelation 1:7 says, behold, he is coming on the clouds, and somehow everyone will see him, and every knee will bow. You won't expect him when he comes, but I want to live a life of readiness for this. This is the ultimate thing to get dressed for in life, isn't it? I want to be ready. It deserves some preparation time. Jesus is coming back. Just let that sink in for a minute. Jesus, the King of heaven, the one who died for your sins and rose again, defeating death and sin and Satan forever. The one who created you, the one who knows you better than you know yourself and loves you, Jesus, is coming back. It seems like a very spiritual thing to say, doesn't it? But one day, listen, it won't be just spiritual. He will bring his kingdom into the physical. And it's already happening, little by little, but it will be all here. You will see him with your own eyes, riding on a white horse, nail-pierced hands. And when it happens, nothing else will matter. So let me ask you, what must you do to prepare for his return? What kind of spiritual outfit do we need to have on? What do you need to do to prepare for his return? Most people, your conscience kind of clicks at that moment, right? And you're like, oh, well, if I'm here and I know Jesus is coming back, then what needs to happen is I need to clean my life up. I got some things that I know I'm not doing that are right. Like, this is an average response. And let me just tell you, if you think that the way to be ready for Jesus' return is just to do good things, you're in, like, the majority of humans think this is the way that you prepare for the return of Jesus. But you will be so disappointed if all you do to prepare for Jesus is just try to do good things and make yourself a better person. Because every one of us has a brokenness that we cannot fix on our own. There is this huge chasm between your spiritual condition and the holiness of God. And there's no way for you to make up for the mistakes that you've made and the brokenness of your life. Only trusting in Jesus and saying, you know what, I'm giving my life away to you, and I'm positioning myself as a servant, and I'm saying it's not my way anymore, it's your way. And it's not that when you do that, you become perfect and you do everything right. It just means that you're laying your life down and saying, I want to follow Jesus for the rest of my life. Only people who have done that will actually be ready when he returns. And so let me just give you this warning. If you're counting on your own good deeds to get you in God's good graces, you are going to be severely disappointed. So I'd much rather you be disappointed today than disappointed when he comes. And so that's what the gospel says. The gospel says you're broken and you need a new life in Jesus. And when you lay your life down, he comes and he gives you a new life in him. And following him doesn't lead to perfection, but it does lead to a lot of the things that you probably think you need to do to get your life back. Get your life right? Like, you want to give up that habit because you don't want to be doing that habit thing when he comes, right? It's not about earning anything. It's just about, I want to be ready. And he wants you to live a life of readiness. Jesus is coming back. Are you ready? You know, my kids are very much looking forward to baseball season. I've got one kid, I'm not going to tell you which one it is because you don't even know, but he spends an hour a day practicing pitching. This kid has never even played organized baseball. He's just getting ready. He's so ready. And I'm learning, we had our first season of Little League last year with our oldest, and I'm learning that being ready is one of the most important things in baseball. You got to be ready. There's even a term for it. It's called baseball ready. You go to the fields, you go to the complex on Mission Sportsplex, here's what you hear. Baseball ready! They're yelling it to the kids. The coaches are yelling at the kids. The parents in the stands. I think there's some aunts and uncles that nobody remembers their name. I think even the dogs are yelling it. Baseball ready! Everybody's yelling it. Baseball ready! What does it mean to be baseball ready? It means you got your knees bent, your gloves open, your hands out, and you're ready. You're watching. Every single play, you're watching. I'm like dropping something here. I don't even know. Just going to make it go away. Hold on. Sorry. This is weird. Did not plan this. All right, we're just going to put this over here. I was not baseball ready, but baseball ready. Baseball ready means this. You're acting like every time the ball hits the bat, it's coming to you. Are you getting it? It may not come, but baseball ready means I am ready. Every single time I'm acting like the ball is coming. This is what Jesus wants from you and me. Every single day is a day that Jesus could come back. Every day. In your heart. No one knows when he's coming, but he's coming, and I want to be ready. It's inevitable. So do the thing that you would do if he was coming back today. It's really simple. Have that conversation that you've been putting off, that you know you're supposed to have. Do the insanely fun thing with your family that you want to do. Do that fearless thing that you're maybe too afraid to do, but you want to do it. Forgive that person who owes you money. I don't think I owe anyone here money. Forgive that person who owes you money. And this will be freeing, because if Jesus comes tomorrow, money doesn't matter. And your pain, no matter how bad your pain is, it's short. It has an end. Who knows? Maybe he really will come tomorrow. So listen to me. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll come right now. That would have been really cool. But I want to be ready. So let's go back to the moment where Jesus was with his followers, because it turns out he wasn't just with his followers. There was a whole crowd of people that were leaning in. That's how it is with Jesus, right? People are always leaning in, listening. And Peter, one of Jesus' favorite guys, he starts to wonder who Jesus was talking about when he talks about all these servants. And I don't know what Peter's heart was, but let's just read what he says. Verse 41. Peter asked, Lord, are you telling us this parable to us or to everyone? In other words, who is this for? Are you talking to just, the disciples? But all these people are listening in too. And so Jesus, he knows Peter's heart, and he answers Peter's question by going further into the metaphor. He knows that Peter's kind of hoping. Peter was there at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, and he got in on the ground floor, and I think he was hoping to make this Jesus movement kind of exclusive, and he wanted to be in charge. Who can I be in charge, God? And so here's what Peter says what Jesus says in verse 42. The Lord answered, who then is the faithful and wise manager, whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them their food allowance at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all of his possessions. But suppose the servant says to himself, my master is taking a long time in coming. He then begins to beat the other servants, both men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk. Oops. The master of that house, of that servant, will come on a day when he does not expect him, in an hour he's not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers. The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready, or does not do what the master wants, will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. And so if you go back and you read that, you see there's not just a few servants, but many, because there's lots of options for what's going to happen to these servants. Peter's like, it's going to be just us, right, Lord? You're just talking to us. And Jesus says, no, I am for anyone and everyone. We love to say this all the time. There's a huge sign in the back that says this. Jesus is for anyone and everyone. It's not an exclusive club. Everyone can follow Jesus. Sadly, not everyone will. But that's our hope, is that we see anyone and everyone represented here. Heaven will be the most diverse place in the universe. Every tribe, every tongue, every language will be spoken in heaven. And those who are put in charge, every single one with a position of influence, has a responsibility to treat people with dignity, respect, and fairness. You may have been part of a church where this didn't happen. Because people in my position sometimes lord their positions over other people. And so, just on the behalf of pastors, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the times that you felt overlooked. I'm sorry that you felt like you've been in a place where you don't matter. I'm sorry when anyone has abused their position of power and used their influence for their own gain instead of to lift you up and serve you. And I hope that this can be a place where every single person who has influence uses it to serve and to lift other people up and not push them down. We don't ever want to oppress, because everything belongs to God, and we're just managers. It's the same for you, and it's the same for me. You will give an account for how you managed everything you've been given, every penny, every ounce of influence in your life. The world will end one day. Jesus is coming. So serve somebody and be ready. This is the attitude that we need to have. It's like medicine for your heart, and it's going to be good for you. You got to get this. You got to get this new way of thinking, this readiness for his return. Serving somebody. And then, once you're ready, once you're dressed, you're not spiritually naked anymore. You're ready to serve. You're serving somebody. Then it says, just wait. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to wait, isn't it? It can be frustrating. But Jesus gives really clear expectations. I love following him. He gives the clearest expectations. You can expect him to come back any day. So he says, any day. And while you're waiting, he wants you to have the attitude, the position, and the readiness of a servant. And then he just wants you to wait. And yeah, waiting can be frustrating. Because it means you don't get to control the timeline. That pricks your ego a little bit, doesn't it? You don't get to control the timeline. Just wait. When you're tired, wait on his strength. When you're lonely, wait on his presence. When you're broke, wait on his provision. When you're brokenhearted, wait on his comfort. When you're sick, wait for his healing. When you're confused, wait for his wisdom. Just wait. Anybody else ever find yourself flipping through the channels late at night? It can get kind of weird and expensive because you know what comes on random channels late at night is infomercials. And I love what they do in infomercials. They have this tagline that they say always at the end. They've kind of made it sound like they completed their sale. Like they showed you the product that you can't live without, and they told you how much it costs. And then they say, just wait. There's more. And then they just make the deal unbelievable. Like you get twice what you thought you were going to pay, right? Or maybe you get this amazing thing that you can't live without for free. Just thrown in. Just wait. There's more. This is how it is with Jesus. Wait on him, and great things will happen. Great things will happen. Isaiah 40:31 says, they who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. We love to say, keep looking up. It's on the banner behind me. It's kind of something that our church has rallied around since the very beginning. Even before our church started, before we even had our first worship service or ever even told anyone about our church, we knew what the name of our church was going to be. We knew it was going to be called the Hills Community Church. And the reason it says the Hills is because I feel like the Lord gave us that name from Psalm 121, where it says, I lift my eyes up to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Keep looking up, and one day you will see him coming. You will see him usher in his kingdom, and there will be no more sadness or sorrow or tears or mourning or pain. Because Jesus is coming back. Don't get that out of your head. Jesus is coming back. It's really going to happen. And he wants you to have the attitude, the spiritual outfit of serving and being ready. And then you just wait. Because when you wait on him, there's so much more coming. I'm going to pray and then we're going to sing together. Lord, thank you so much that our hope is in something that's real, that you're coming and you're already here. I pray that we would experience your presence. I pray that you would give us a glimpse of heaven this week that's more real than anything else we've ever seen. I pray that we would position ourselves as servants in your kingdom and become and learn how to be like Jesus. So help us, Lord, to humble ourselves, to serve, and to wait, and to keep looking up, knowing that your kingdom is coming and it's here. Thank you for that promise. In Jesus' name, amen.
There's nothing better than you.
And then it explodes.
Your love is like hardness. There's nothing better.